Welcome, everyone. I now call the March 3rd, 2026 regular City Council meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, everyone. At this point, we will take a moment to take roll call of the City Council members by position number. Please say here when the clerk calls your name.
Councilmember Angulari.
Here.
Mayor Thompson. Deputy Mayor Alders.
Here.
Councilmember Kurd.
Here.
Councilmember Miles.
Here.
Councilmember Dodd.
Here.
Councilmember Alcabra.
Here.
All present with the exception of Mayor Thompson, who is absent and excused.
Thank you, clerk. Next up, we have the meeting agenda approval. Are there any changes to the meeting agenda for tonight? All right, I don't see any. So next we have public engagement opportunities. Coming up on the first Wednesday of the month, we have the co-working events for business owners. Join a dynamic day of co-working, collaboration, and networking. Startup 425 Co-working is designed to foster collaboration, inspire innovation, and provide valuable resources to help you thrive in your entrepreneurial journey from 10:30 to 2 p.m. at Bothell City Hall on the first Wednesday of each month. Next up, we have the Artist Meet and Mingle. Artists of all kinds are invited to hang out, enjoy snacks, meet fellow creatives, swap ideas, and help grow Bothell's artist community. You'll also learn about the call to visual and literary artists at Triangle Junction, happening tomorrow, Wednesday, March 4th, from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Bothell Library. Lastly, we have human service grants applications are open. We are now accepting human services grants applications from eligible nonprofit and community-based organizations serving the Bothell community for the 2027-2028 budget cycle. Interested organizations must submit their applications by 4 p.m. on April 6th, 2026. Thank you. Next, we have a couple of proclamations, and I've asked my colleagues here to help me read those into the record. Councilmember Dodd is going to read the Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month proclamation.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thanks to everyone who's here today. This is very exciting to see all of you. Whereas disability is a natural part of the human experience and in no way diminishes the right of individuals to participate in or contribute to society, and whereas Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month provides the opportunity to raise awareness about the inclusion of people with developmental disabilities in all facets of community life and acknowledge the systemic barriers that people with disabilities face in connecting with the communities in which they live. And whereas we recognize the many accomplishments of people with developmental disabilities who come from all racial, ethnic, educational, social, and economic backgrounds, and who are invaluable members of our community as neighbors, coworkers, classmates, voters, friends, and family. And whereas we strive to increase developmental disabilities awareness and acceptance by challenging preconceived and outdated attitudes and beliefs about the abilities of people with developmental disabilities. And whereas we recognize examples of disability inclusion in our community, including organizations like Kindering, the Arcs of Snohomish and King County, and the Alyssa Burnett Center that are dedicated to supporting and celebrating people with disabilities through pediatric and adult therapies, recreation activities, and life skill classes. And whereas we recognize that equitable experiences and full inclusion are matters of justice and call for the shared responsibility of community members to foster welcoming, accessible, and supportive environments, policies, and systems for all. Now therefore I, not Mason Thompson, Mayor of the City of Bothell, do hereby proclaim March 2026 as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month and encourage local business, community organizations, and city staff to actively and intentionally review their practices to make sure individuals of all ages who have intellectual and developmental disabilities are included in their programs and welcome in their facilities. And I believe we have probably a couple folks to speak today.
Okay. Hi, my name's Mika Pepper. I'm the Business Operations Manager of the Alyssa Burnett Center. We serve adults 18 and older throughout our community with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and I am here to introduce two of our amazing participants and their families. If Sam and Maria could please come up and bring your families with you. Sam and Maria. I know, both of you.
Make me do that. You do that.
Professional. Hello, my name is Sam Lang, and I am a longtime resident of Bothell. I am happy to be here today to represent Alyssa Burnett Center. The month of March is Disability Awareness Month, and this proclamation is important to me because I am a person with autism. I think it's important to tell my story, and it's a great one. I attended Morelands Elementary. My favorite teacher was Miss Brady and Jean Christensen. She was the best school nurse. At Skyview Middle School, I had Miss Maxwell and Mr. Moen. They were really nice. At North Creek High School, I had Barb Beck and Miss Homer. They were awesome. After high school, I entered the Adult Transition Program. I had the most fun with my friends and job coaches, Corbin, Kelly, and Gloria, that assisted me in learning public transportation, writing resumes, and practicing job interviews. You may have seen me at some of my internship sites around Bothell. These included Snapdoodle, Grocery Outlet, Molbach's, and Brightwater. After ATI, I began attending Alyssa Burnett Center here in Bothell. Some of my favorite classes are art, disability advocacy, leadership, and book club. And you know what they say, what happens at book club stays at book club. At Alyssa Burnett Center, I am a community ambassador and on the student advisory board. I also started taking boxing lessons and met Andrew Brown. He offered me a job and I work at Title I Boxing in Linwood. I also had the opportunity to attend the community academy at Bothell Police Department where I met the police officers, detectives in row, the police dog, and his partner, Officer James Jordal. The clerks in animal control, I really recommend going to this program. I had a chance to speak at the University of Washington Bothell Disability Justice Art Show. Another great thing I do is attend Communications for Life, where graduate students at University in Washington and Seattle work with people with disabilities on communication skills and just having a great experience with new friends. I also help at Launch Buddies Media with Barb Beck, where our group made podcasts about social justice in the disability community. Another reason I love Bothell is all the friends I have here. We like to go to swim at McMiniman's, eat at Ranch Drive-In, go to the movies, use the library, and get coffee, hang out at Arena Sports, and go on hikes. In conclusion, we have a motto at Alyssa Burnett Center called RISE, that stands for Respect, Include, Support, and Enjoy. I believe the Bothell Proclamation embraces this for the disability community. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Mark Wagar. This is my daughter Maria and my wife Janine. The Alyssa Burnett Center over the last 12 years has enriched not only the lives of their participants, but the lives of those in the community. The talented teachers, the staff at ABC, they encourage and promote support, inclusion, and and self-advocacy. They help individuals build their strengths and build a community. Our daughter Maria graduated from Woodinville High School in 2014. High school was a struggle, a lot of anxiety, behavior issues, and those carried over as she started in 2014 at ABC. She had a one-on-one aide with her at all times those first few years, helping her stay engaged, helping her with her behavior. But as the years progressed, so did Maria, and she matured. The anxiety dropped, her independence grew, and she no longer needed an aide with her. And she now walks the halls of ABC with her head up, calm, confident, big smile on her face, and greeting friends around every corner. But it doesn't stop there. It goes outside the walls of ABC and out into the city of Bothell and community, where she's been a successful member of the community. She's worked at a pizza restaurant. She's volunteered at a preschool. She has also been involved in many other community programs in the area. And the foundation of this success, not just her success, but countless of her peers, started with ABC and the support and the help of the amazing, talented teachers and staff there. The participants at ABC are flourishing both on campus within the program and out here in the city and around the community. And on behalf of the ABC, I thank the city of Bothell for this proclamation.
Thank you very much. At the end of the next proclamation, we're going to gather folks for pictures. So just stick around for a little bit. We are welcome to celebrate, or happy to celebrate with you. Next up, we have a proclamation for Women's History Month, and I've asked my colleague, Councilmember Miles, to read that proclamation.
Thank you. Whereas the first ever Women's History Week was celebrated in 1978 and March 8th, International Women's Day was chosen as the focal point of the observance, and whereas in 1980, President Carter declared the week of March 8th National Women's History Week, and 7 years later in 1987, Congress declared March as National Women's History Month in perpetuity. There we go. Whereas American women of every race, class, religion, ability, status, age, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our nation in countless recorded and often unrecorded ways. And whereas women play critical economic, cultural, and social roles in every sphere of life, constituting a significant portion of the labor force, working both inside and outside of the home, historically providing the majority of the volunteer labor force, establishing many of the early charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions in the United States, and courageously serving our country in all branches of the military, and whereas women served as early leaders in the forefront of every major progressive and social change movement, not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also in the abolitionist movement, the emancipation movement, the industrial labor movement, the civil rights movement, the peace movement, and others, all which create more fair and more just society for all. And whereas, despite these contributions, women have been consistently overlooked and undervalued in literature, teaching, and the study of American history. Now, therefore, I, Brittany Miles, not Mason Thompson, council member, do hereby proclaim March 2026 as Women's History Month in the city of Bothell and join in honoring and celebrating all women by recognizing their perseverance, contributions, and vitalness to our community and our country.
Thank you, Councilmember Miles. And here today with us, we have Nikita Reddy and team with Sweta to have received the proclamation. Thank you.
Oh, it's on. Okay. First of all, a very good evening. I know Mayor Thompson is not here today, and Deputy Mayor Jenny Aldrich, council members, city staff, and everyone here tonight. It's truly an honor to stand here at the city of Bothell and accept this Women's History Month proclamation on behalf of Sweta. Women's History Month is more than a celebration. It's a reminder. A reminder that progress happens because ordinary women do extraordinary things, especially every single day. Not always loudly, not always visibly, but consistently, courageously, with heart. And when a city chooses to recognize that work publicly like this, it tells every girl and every woman in this room, your story matters. So thank you, Bothell, for creating a community where organizations like ours feel welcomed, supported, and encouraged to grow. The city's commitment to small businesses, inclusion, and grassroots initiatives truly makes a real difference for nonprofits like Swecha. Swecha was built for women and by women, and we are proud to be led by an entirely women-led board. Thank you. Our mission is very simple. It's just to create spaces for every woman that to be like feel, seen, heard, supported, and empowered to grow into their fullest potential. Because many of us are juggling so much. We are professionals, we are mothers, we are caretakers, we are immigrants, we are entrepreneurs, we are dreamers, and very often we put ourselves last. Swecha exists to change that. I want to share something personal for a moment. When I first moved here, I did not have a community, or I did not have any big network here. And then I also did not have my family nearby. And I was balancing work, responsibilities, and also trying to find where I belonged. There were many days I wished I just had one space, one circle, where someone would say, "You're doing okay, and we are here with you." And that small wish became Swecha. What started as a few women gathering over conversations has now grown into a strong, supportive community where women collaborate, lead, and rise together. And today, standing here, receiving this recognition from the city feels incredibly emotional because it shows how far that small dream has come. Over the years, we have hosted wellness events, networking circles, leadership opportunities, cultural celebrations, and small business support programs, all focused on building confidence, connection, and community. Because when one woman rises, she brings 10 women with her. And we are just getting started there. And you also see that here, right in front. And this year, we are launching our Excellence Awards to celebrate inspiring leaders in our community. And in the month of May, we are also organizing a small business expo to spotlight and support local women entrepreneurs. And then later in the year, we'll also host a multicultural community celebration that brings families together through culture, traditions, and storytelling. Because representation and belonging matter just as much as the opportunity. And truly, our events are open to all. Anybody can join us, and we warmly invite you to join us, like participate, network, have fun, and be part of this growing community. Whether you're coming to learn, connect, or simply meet new people, there's always a place for you at Swecha. Everything we do comes back to one belief: when women thrive, communities thrive. So on behalf of our board, our volunteers, and every woman who has walked into a Swecha event and left feeling stronger, braver, or more helpful, thank you for this proclamation, and thank you for believing in our work. And I'll close with this: when women are supported, they don't just succeed. They transform families, businesses, and entire communities, and Swecha is here to make sure no woman has to rise alone. Thank you, and happy Women's Day, Women's History Month.
All right. Our assistant city manager is going to help us with pictures, so we're going to listen to Becky.
Yes. Gotta get the proclamation in there. Yes.
All right, back to the less fun parts of the meeting. I always love proclamations, and tonight was just exceptionally special. All right, the city has accepted public comment in writing as well as accepted sign up for those who wish to speak at tonight's meeting. Written comments submitted to the city clerk no later than 3 p.m. today were forwarded to all city council members and are part of the record. When the clerk calls your name, you will have 3 minutes to speak. Please note that council will receive your input, but we do not engage in discussion of these topics. Staff will make note of items requiring follow-up. City clerk?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We did not receive any written comments, nor did I have anyone sign up to speak beforehand. However, if there's anyone in the audience that would like to give public comment, please feel free to raise your hand. Any remote attendees, please raise your virtual hand. I don't have anyone, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll hear the city manager report from City Manager Stannard.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and I'm so fortunate that there was at least a brief pause between the transition to the less fun part of the meeting. So I'm grateful for that, and I'm also grateful for those who joined us tonight, and including Sam and Maria for sharing a little bit about their stories. These meetings are always. Public meetings are always better with the public, and it's nice when there's a friendly buzz in council chambers, so appreciative of that. Well, tonight we have one main event for the city manager report, and as council will recall, for the last 2 legislative sessions, we've had a monthly visit from our state lobbyist, Shelley Helder, to update us on what is happening down in Olympia and answer any questions. This is in addition to the excellent weekly written reports that are transmitted to council, so I know you can stay along. As session starts to wrap up next week, this will be our last monthly visit from Shelley, but she will be back in April to do a overall session recap as well. But for tonight, we'll hear really what's coming up at the finish line, and Shelley can answer virtually any question you might have about a bill. So Shelley, welcome, and I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you very much. So today is day 51 of the 60-day legislative session. So we are getting close to the end. They're scheduled to adjourn on Thursday, March 12th. And all indications are showing that they will finish their work by that date. The House and the Senate have each released their own versions of the operating, capital, and transportation budgets. As a reminder, this is a supplemental budget year, so the budgets that have been introduced are making changes to the biennial budgets. Now that all those budgets have been released and they've gone through the public hearing process, the budget writers for each chamber are meeting with one another to reconcile the differences between the 2 proposals. A notable development in the budget that I wanted to flag was also included in a written report, but I thought it was worth mentioning this evening as well. In the governor's proposed transportation budget that was released in December, there was $5 million for the Bothell Way multimodal project that was inadvertently removed from the budget. Because the governor's budget is the starting place for the House and the Senate transportation budget development, it's really concerning that $5 million of the $7 million allocated to that project was eliminated. So we quickly engaged with both the governor's team as well as legislative staff to make them aware of the mistake. And I'm pleased to report that in both the House and the Senate transportation budget proposals, that money is restored. So it's not new money. It's money that was allocated to the city originally back in 2022. But because the way that the legislature allocates funding, they do it in out years. And so we received the money back in 2022, but it wasn't available for several biennia. We're getting close to the time to be able to use the money, and it was mistakenly removed. So that has been fixed, and I have confidence that it will be included in the final budget. On the policy front, the bills that have a fiscal impact to the state had to pass out of the opposite chamber's fiscal committee yesterday. So that was the most recent cutoff deadline. With that deadline, they have now wrapped up committee work for this session, and the remainder of their time will be spent in caucus and on the floor debating and voting on bills. There are two lingering policy issues that I wanted to brief the council on this evening. The first is Senate Bill 6026, and this bill requires cities to allow residential development in all commercial zones. This is a governor request legislation, and the goal behind it is to increase the capacity for housing development. We spoke about this bill when I was with you last month. The bill is still under consideration and has been rather significantly amended since I spoke with you last. It was amended by the House Local Government Committee under the leadership of Representative Dewar. As the bill currently stands, it requires cities to allow for residential uses in areas zoned for commercial or mixed use, with some limited exceptions. It also says that cities cannot require ground floor retail in more than 40% of the total acreage in areas that are zoned for commercial or mixed use. As I say it, it still sounds very restrictive, but this proposal is actually much more flexible and simpler than the proposal that we saw that made it out of the Senate. For purposes of determining that 40% of total acreage, it would exclude transit station areas. So that's a big chunk of Bothell, as well as areas that have a height incentive or allow for development up to 85 feet. So there's flexibility in how this bill would be applied. In arriving to this point, there has been a lot of back and forth. And the state that it's in now, I would say, is a kind of fragile balance between what cities broadly are able to implement without having it completely unravel a lot of the plans and goals that were adopted in recent comp plans. As well as kind of the objective of the governor and the lieutenant governor in wanting to be even more bold in housing policies. I think where it stands now, no one is happy, which is usually a good sign of compromise. However, the version of the bill as it stands now does create some risk for properties in Canyon Park. So we are working on an amendment that would specify that areas that are covered by an employment overlay would be exempt from the requirement to allow residential. Because it's in this balanced state in response to this request for an amendment, the development community is asking for an amendment that would allow cities to provide a kind of a departure from standards or a variance process when in certain conditions to not require first floor retail. It's not clear yet whether these amendments are going to be incorporated into the bill, and if there's going to be more amendments. I would imagine there would be more amendments considered. The bill is currently in the House Rules Committee, and so that means it has to be pulled from the Rules Committee and then advanced to the House floor for consideration prior to this Friday's cutoff deadline. So anything that does not pass out of the opposite chamber before this Friday is dead, of course, with the exception of bills that are necessary to implement the budget. I do not expect this bill to receive that designation, but there is a lot of momentum and support behind it. So if I was to guess, I would say this one will make it over the finish line. The second policy area that I want to flag is Senate Bill 6346, and this is commonly known as the millionaire's tax. It is a proposal to impose a 9.9% tax on incomes above $1 million. And one of the objectives of the proposal is to shift Washington's tax code to be less regressive. And so in order to make that shift happen, the bill, in addition to imposing an income tax, also includes a sales tax exemption for hygiene products and diapers. And this exemption would apply both to state and local sales tax. Across all cities, that is estimated to be roughly $120 million hit to cities in lost sales tax. It's difficult to know what amount that would mean for the city of Bothell, but it is safe to say that there would be a reduction in sales tax revenue collections starting in 2029, which is when the tax shift would occur. Because there is a delayed implementation date for this bill. The other thing that I'll mention this bill includes is a flat $150 million for public defense grants, which would go to cities and counties. 10% of that amount, or $15 million, would be available for cities. The remainder would go to counties. So in summary, it would be a roughly $120 million loss in sales tax, and about exactly $15 million in public defense grants. That's where the bill stands now. I, again, anticipate it will still be under consideration. This is a bill that is exempt from cutoff deadlines. It's considered necessary to implement the budget, even though it is not actually necessary to implement the budget, because the bill doesn't take effect for 4 more years. So I'm going to pause there. That's all the, I guess, most pressing information that I wanted to share with you, but I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Shelley. Councilmember Dodd.
Thank you. Thank you, Shelley. I have never gotten the vibe that we are a body that is against progressive tax reform, but I also wonder if there is perhaps an effort to educate the proponents of the bill on the hit to cities and the revenue that is and isn't shared from the state, because it does make it hard to support this specific effort the way that it will impact our already pretty tight budgets. Is there a supportive but, hey, wait, there's some problems here effort that you can loop us into on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I should have mentioned the Association of Washington Cities is not actually taking a position, support or oppose on the underlying bill. However, they are kind of engaging in an effort to educate legislators on the impact to cities if the policy passes as is. They are requesting that the bill include the creation of a sales tax mitigation account for cities, so that whatever amount of local sales tax is being exempted through the hygiene products and diapers, that amount would be put into this account and then distributed to cities on a pro rata basis, so that cities would be compensated accordingly. I would say their efforts to date are, they're being heard, though I'm confident they would appreciate cities joining them and delivering that message to legislators.
Yeah, I think we would appreciate guidance on how best to join. And I think just the important nuance, at least to me, is it's a great effort. Like, taxing feminine hygiene products and diapers is kind of abhorrent, but the state doesn't give us a lot of mechanisms to make up that funding or to collect other kinds of revenue. So, yeah, I think that's something we'll probably, I'm just looking at everybody, but I'm assuming we'll want to follow up on that. Yeah, thank you.
Any other comments? I have thoughts that I would love to jump in with. I have looked forward to the day when taxes on hygiene products and diapers were to be removed. And this is partly coming from my background as a doula, but just also feminist activism. We have been waiting for a very long time. And so I'm grateful for legislators working to remove that hit to predominantly female and folks in the community. I just am excited to see that and appreciate the effort to be realistic about the impacts of changing tax streams. And so I do support getting involved in the sales tax mitigation account effort, and would be happy to help coordinate with you and an AWC if you can guide us to the right people. I do have a couple of other questions that came up around the funding allocated for Bothell Way Multimodal. When is it intended to be appropriated now that it's back in the budget?
Great question. I'm going to go from memory here, but I'm fairly certain it's allocated for the 27-29 biennium. And we have 2 million of that 7 million. So it was a total of 7 million. 2 million was allocated to the current biennium, 25-27, and 5 million was allocated to 27-29.
Shelley, you don't have the benefit of seeing our Public Works Director and Deputy Director nodding their head, but I think you did well.
Great.
You got it right, confirmed. And then the next question was around working on the amendment for the governor's housing policy that would affect Canyon Park. Have you been able to work with staff on identifying a council member who could testify?
Yes, is the answer. We have passed the opportunity for public testimony, but council has been engaged in all the opportunities that were available. Now we're into the point of the process where engagement is just reaching out and talking to legislators directly. And Bothell is very privileged to have Representative Dewar serving in the capacity she is, not only because of her experience serving on Bothell City Council, but also because she's chair of the local government committee. Her caucus is really looking to her leadership on this. And so she has a lot of responsibility on her shoulders, and has been balancing the pressure from the governor and development community, as well as wanting to be realistic about what to expect of cities.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And yeah, Davina Dewar Stan right here. So I appreciate her effort. Please pass that on. Is there any other questions that anybody has? Councilmember Miles, I saw you kind of nodding along on the sales tax mitigation. Does that sound good to you?
It sounds actually phenomenal. I had to kind of do a double take as I was listening to it, because in my lifetime, I don't think I've actually seen this. So it's good to have this in the works.
Cool. Well, thank you. Without any more questions, I really appreciate you being here tonight, Shelley, for the update.
My pleasure. Thank you all for the time.
Thank you.
And truly in closing too, Shelley has been working very hard for the city this year in a very busy, short session. We've had a lot of communication in the last few months, so I appreciate her, and we'll follow up on efforts to communicate to our representatives about again the support for the goal of the sales tax change, and also just a reminder of in the money that's being brought in, if there's an opportunity to remember cities a little bit more, that would be helpful. With that, it completes the city manager report, and I'll turn it back over to you.
All right. Next up, we have council committee reports, community reports, and conversations. I can save mine. I see Councilmember Anguilari.
Hello everyone. Today I present a critical deliberation and a learning with you. This is to all my Bothell residents and beyond. First one, what endless war spending means for our future. What does it hold for us today? That's the number one. Number two, what I learned at Puget Sound Regional Council workshop for newly elected official last Friday. Let me start with two important quotes. President John F. Kennedy said, mankind must put an end to wars before war puts an end to mankind. And also, Mahatma Gandhi reminded us, an eye for an eye only ends up making the world blind. The Iranian regime has caused real harm, both in their own country and across the region. But after everything we have seen over the last few decades, I want to ask a basic question. Do we really want to keep spending trillions of dollars on wars? How do we benefit? This is my critical deliberation that I've been thinking last 2 decades or more. History is clear. Wars that begin at a quick strikes often turn into years of escalation, trillions in spending, loss of lives, and generational consequences. The Brown University Cost of War Project estimates that post 9/11 wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and related operations have costed United States $8 trillion. Let me say it again, $8 trillion so far. That includes roughly $2.1 trillion for Iraq-Syria war zone and a $2.3 trillion for Afghanistan-Pakistan war zone, plus other war zones, homeland security and all. We all know that our country has a 39 trillion debt right now, and everybody is concerned about our debt. And here we have already spent 8 trillion so far on wars. That is more like 20% of our national debt. Let me say it, 20% of our national debt. The part that really hurts us as Americans is the interest we keep paying on this debt. Here are some sobering numbers. We are paying 1 trillion interest every year now. 20% of that equals to $200 billion related to the wars we are paying and we will continue to pay. If we continue at this pace, every war will cost even more with the inflation and so on. Now, the most important thing that I wanted to call, families here at home are struggling with high cost of living, rents, healthcare, senior care, school funding, utilities, police resources, city budgets that often feel stretched, and infrastructure that needs serious attention. The weight of our debt is a real national issue, and it is directly connected to underinvestment in our people and our communities. Recent research shows that every $1 million in education, if we spend every $1 million in education, it creates 13 jobs. Let me say it again. If we spend in America $1 million in education, it creates 13 jobs. What does that mean? $1 trillion, if we invest in education, it could create 13 million jobs here at home. Instead of exporting dollars and endangering our soldiers in long wars, we could be investing in infrastructure and human capital like teachers, counselors, school staff, and build local businesses that support our community's growth. Nowadays, we are losing jobs because of artificial intelligence and will continue to lose. We must invest in the right education for our children and for our next generation. Hence, I am deeply concerned about what the next 10, 20, and 100 years for our children, for us, for our grandchildren, for our families, for our communities, for our country. My hope is that as a nation, we choose to spend more wisely and make our community stronger and more united. Now, I have successfully passed on my deliberation to you all. Thank you. The second one, let me turn to my little knowledge sharing here. What I learned at PSRC workshop. We heard an excellent presentation from Josh Brown, Executive Director at Puget Sound Regional Council, PSRC, which represents 4.5 million residents in 82 cities across King County, Pierce, Snohomish, and Kitsap counties. The region is projected to grow about 5.8 million people and another 3.4 million jobs by 2050. I learned a lot in this and I just wanted to share. A big part of this growth is housing. In past decades, 70% of the homes built in our region were single family homes. Today, it is different. 70% of the new housing is multifamily, apartments and townhomes, because that's how we can house more and build more affordable housing within the land and infrastructure we have available. Our region grew from roughly 1.5 million people in 1960. Let me say it. We were only, I'm talking about our Puget Sound region with the 4 counties. We were only 1.5 million in 1960, and we grew, almost doubled in 1990 by 2.7 million, and now we are over 4.5 million residents. That rapid growth has brought opportunities, but also means a big challenges for transportation, housing, affordability, and quality of life. By the way, I learned Seattle lost 13,000 jobs last year. It could be because of technology and artificial intelligence. It's something to be concerned. Going forward, we might lose more jobs with the technology and all, because of the AI. Going forward, all our 4 counties will likely keep adding more smaller homes, multifamily housing. That makes it even more important that we find innovative solutions for the traffic, commute times, and that we coordinate land use and transportation so growth actually works for the people. So as your council member here in Bothell, I want us to be part of the solution, pushing for smart investment in people instead of endless wars, planning for growth in a way that keeps Bothell and beyond livable, connected, and inclusive. Thank you for the opportunity to share these thoughts with you all tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Anguilari. Next up, Councilmember Dodd.
Thanks. I have kind of a list. So this is an easy heads up. As we discussed at the last meeting, we are reforming what was the Public Safety Committee. It is now given the slightly different scope, especially around the safety of our immigrant neighbors, the Community Safety Committee, and we're having our first meeting on Thursday. So Councilmember Alcabra and Deputy Mayor Aldrichs and I, someone will report next week. I'm voting for the Deputy Mayor, but we'll see what happens. So that's one. The next thing is with the Boards and Commissions Subcommittee, the mayor is unable to attend the meeting that we need to have this week, so we need a different third member of the committee to join Councilmember Alcabra and myself. In quick talks, the Deputy Mayor is available, but that's not how we do things, so I wanted to make sure that we had a quick discussion to see who's available. Councilmember Alcabra and I have time Friday afternoon at 3:30, if that happens to work for anyone, but yeah.
I can make that work.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I will, I'm going to make a calendar invite, and it's going to be virtual, so even better, hopefully. Cool. Just writing that down so I don't forget. And then lastly, the North Shore Parks and Service Recreation Area, which I will say NPRSA for after that, we are going to do our level best to get a levy on the November 2027 ballot for a community center with a pool. In our last meeting, we did determine which of the 3 options that the community had been surveyed around we'd be proceeding with. One of the most interesting considerations is that for cost recovery, it can't just be a pool. It has to be like the pool. Like for anyone who has kids who swim, like, you know, your kids will travel much further to go to like the Snohomish Aquatic Center or the Linwood Center because it has like a fun pool versus like a single sort of older, boring pool. Sorry to all the boring pools out there. So that said, I've been the only representative from Bothell at the last 2 meetings. We have 2 voting seats and an alternate, and we need attendance at those meetings. So, and this is just a blanket statement, but if you find that a committee you're signed up for doesn't meet at a time you can attend, please surface that, in this part of our council meetings, and let's find people who can go. A lot of our committees do important work. It's an opinion, but I think it's a valid one, is that this committee is doing very important work over the next 2 years to get this levy ready. So we need folks at the meetings that they're supposed to be at. So thank you.
Councilmember Kurt.
Thanks. Totally agree with that, Councilmember Dodd. I think some of the meetings that I signed up for are on different days than were advertised, and it's been an adjustment for my calendar too. But if that happens to you, please bring it up, because it's fine to shuffle things around. Just because we make the decisions in January doesn't mean that you're locked in for life. So I attended last week a meeting of Snohomish County Tomorrow, which is a planning type body for Snohomish County. There's a lot of presentation, but I won't bore you with. But one that I did want to share, because it ties back to work that we did on council last year, was adoption of reconciliation of growth targets and housing numbers and annexation maps. And so if you recall to last year, Snohomish County Council had extended or expanded the boundary of the urban growth area into rural lands to the east of the north and east of the city, and had assumed that we would add that into our MUGA, or municipal urban growth area. That was not the case of council's wishes, because we don't have financial pathway to bringing that area up to our codes and our levels of service. We furthermore, at the time, just to bring up some of the new council members to speed here, we kind of don't agree with the premise of just extending the boundary of urban growth into rural areas and working farms and forests, which need to be set aside, and growth needs to happen in cities. That's enshrined in our comprehensive plan. It's enshrined in our value statements and our goals. And so adding rural growth into the city is inconsistent with those, and we let the planning body know that we did not agree to take that into our MUGA. And so they basically drew a big circle around it with a question mark. They are calling it the East SWUGA, East Southwest Urban Growth Area. It's hatched and colorful in a way that doesn't really jive with the rest of the map, but it's because they're still in conversations with Mill Creek. And something that I gleaned from the meeting is that Mill Creek is having a more comprehensive and holistic look at annexation. They have a lot more area than Bothell does to annex into their urban growth or municipal urban growth area. And so I'm interested to see how that conversation is going to be happening at Mill Creek. And there may be some correlation with challenges and maybe opportunities that we have at the city of Bothell too. So I'll be keeping an eye out or an ear out for updates there. And if you have connections at the city of Mill Creek, it might be worthwhile to put a bug in their ear that we're in a similar boat, and it might be worthwhile to share some conversations, just peer to peer. That's my update.
Councilmember Curd, would you like some introductions to Mill Creek City Council members?
I have two that I know of, but obviously we cannot meet with the entire city council one-on-one. So I would just recommend, if you have interest in this, reaching out to any council members that you know of. And I plan to do the same, unless you'd like to do it holistically. We might even be able to work something out, like a special meeting or some sort of shared study session on annexation, if that's of interest.
It is interesting, but I suspect that there's a minority of people that find that topic interesting, but you never know.
Possibly even across two cities, a very small minority. So that's why I currently recommend just reaching out to the council members that you know of, or planning commissioners in Mill Creek, just to establish contact and hear updates. And if you have updates, go ahead and share them. I'd like to keep updated on it as well. Thank you.
I too am interested in potentially a joint meeting, so maybe not a minority on council. So there's maybe a possibility there.
Sounds like maybe I can, because I am planting the idea, maybe I will reach out to their mayor and ask if there are any opportunities to collaborate or share, and if it sounds like there's reciprocal interest in a shared study session, we can work with our executive team to schedule and organize such a shared event.
We'd be happy to do that, and I'm also happy to reach out to City Manager Martin Yamamoto to see if he wants to suggest that too. So maybe you and I can team up and see what we find out.
Sounds good. Thank you.
I like it. Updates tonight have been very varied and interesting, and I appreciate it. I also have an update from the North King County Coalition on Homelessness. We heard updates from Camp United We Stand and KCRHA and Lake City Partners. So they recently did some surveying of their campers, and they learned that with the exception of one camper, everybody was from the North King County area. So this is really folks who are seeking shelter from our community, who are unsheltered and then camping with a tent city that travels around. And Camp United We Stand put out a call to the community for health providers who would be willing to serve campers. And so that includes, all types of health, vision, dental, medical support. And there was some good conversation around partnerships and connecting folks to them. They're also going to be reaching out to cities for human service grants. And so I hope that our team here has been in contact around the grant applications and opportunities. And I believe Anand shared that at the meeting as well, that they would be coming, but they're open now. So that has changed since this meeting. And then KCRHA has continually been doing cold weather activations due to cold temperatures. We seem to have moved beyond that, at least for now. And Lake City Partners shared that their seasonal shelter that they stood up for the winter season closed on February 28th. So the grant funding for that has ended and is no longer open to the community. But the God's Little Acre, the day center, and Aurora Oaks, the enhanced shelter, is still operating and running, as well as the Kenmore Women's Shelter. So all of these partners have been doing really great work in the community, and wanted to share sort of the status of unhoused neighbors with winter weather and how things are going there. So thank you. With that, we will move on from council committee reports and ask if anybody has any items for the projected agenda discussion that they would like to suggest. Okay, seeing none. We are then ready for a motion to approve the consent agenda. And Councilmember Dodd.
I'd like to move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
And a second. So having a motion from Councilmember Dodd and a second from Councilmember Curd, is there any discussion? All right, clerk.
Please say yes or no. Councilmember Anguilleri?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Aldrich?
Yes.
Councilmember Curd?
Yes.
Councilmember Miles?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember Alcabra?
Yes.
Passes 6-0.
Thank you. Next up, we're moving on to our ordinances and resolutions. And I see our Public Works team coming up. And I will call on City Manager Stannard to introduce this item.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor, and good evening again, council members. We are before you tonight for good purposes. Not normally the time of year when we talk about budget. We'll be doing plenty of that later this year, but tonight we are before you with a mid-biennium amendment because of the faith and trust that our community has in the city. So as you know, the 2026 Safe Streets and Sidewalks levy exists because last fall we got positive affirmation from the community, and there's some work to do to line things up and get to work so that we can start making improvements in the community. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to our Public Works Director, Aaron Lenhart, who is joined also by our Finance Manager, Miles Walker, to present an update on what to expect. Aaron.
Excellent. Thank you, Kyle. Good evening, Deputy Mayor and Council. Excellent to see you this evening. Yes. The council action we're requesting this evening is for you to consider adopting an ordinance amending the 2025-2026 biennium budget. And while we are officially here for that action, we are also here to celebrate and to thank council and the community for the support of the city's work. So we'll go through a quick timeline here. So the 25-26 budget that council adopted in December of 2024 acknowledged that the Safe Streets and Sidewalks levy, the previous one, would expire at the end of 2025. So there was no additional new funding included in 2026. So in February of 2025, staff began a conversation with council to speak to how to fund both the programs as well as the ongoing maintenance that was being funded by that levy. In those conversations, we had several study sessions with the council, and they culminated in a decision to renew the 9-year Safe Streets and Sidewalks levy that occurred in June of last year. And then on November 4th of 2025, 69% of voters approved the measure. So very, very happy to be able to come before you and celebrate that support. Towards the end of November, the election results were finally certified. Staff came to council for a housekeeping budget amendment in December of last year, which did not include the new revenues from the Safe Streets and Sidewalks levy. So that's why we are here this evening. And this amendment is necessary to both reflect the new revenues from the levy as well as to begin implementation of the programs that we promised to folks. So I just want to quickly go through a reminder of what the renewal of the levy will allow the city to deliver. So 38% of the levy funding is for keeping our streets safe and well maintained. So that includes both our street operations team as well as some staff in transportation engineering. The remaining 62% is for these three categories came from the comprehensive plan and the transportation element. This was funding that was identified to provide programs, capital programs and projects that to accommodate the city's growth and to serve the community. There are some new upgrades in this renewal of the levy that we weren't able to conduct in the last one. So on the operations and safety side, we're adding a multimodal and safety team in operations. Some of the things that they will be implementing will be maintenance of the North Creek Trail system, as well as operations side of the urban forestry management plan that was just adopted. Also on that end, we'll be adding an engineering technician to support transportation safety program, as well as just efficient operation of our signals and all of the other transportation operations engineering things. We will also, in the capital programs and projects, we will be adding more funding for pavement preservation for local streets, for the highest use local roads in addition to arterials. And then where we last levy, we had funding for safe school walk routes primarily. We've added biking improvements as well as safety improvements to that program. And then the biggest chunk and something that we're really excited about is this additional 26% that will go to multimodal transportation projects. So this funding was identified as a need in the comprehensive plan, and it will help provide additional city match funding for their larger projects, as well as support planning for grant pursuit and that sort of thing for those large projects that will provide new improvements for our travelers, however they travel, whether it's on foot, on wheels, anything. So really excited about that new resource that we'll have. And also, so since the council approved a budget for 2026 that had a contingency to fund our operations just for the second year of the biennium, should the levy funding not continue. So we have identified opportunities to use that contingency funding for one, we'll continue on with safe school walk route projects that were identified as part of the first levy. But we are also able to purchase some new equipment to replace an important paver in our operations side that gave up the ghost at the end of last year. Also, it will help fund some work on council priorities related to safe transportation, things like implementing 20-mile-an-hour speed limits on local streets, as well as doing a feasibility for, the circulator, and also some micromobility work. And finally, we're also going to use or propose to use some of that funding for repair and replacement of some of the city-owned streetlights in the city. We have, of all of the streetlights, we have about 50 that the city owns and maintains that are in desperate need of repair and replacement. So with that, unless council has any questions for me, I'm going to toss it over to my friend Miles.
Councilmember Dodd.
I don't have a question. I just want to give a very heartfelt thank you. Even in my own neighborhood, the neighborhood I grew up in, I've seen the results of the first levy. Even if it didn't come from a levy, for the first time in my, how old am I? In my 33 years of living in Bothell, there is a sidewalk on my street. Not in front of my house, which is fine, but it's close. And that's really cool. So I just really appreciate all the things that your department has made happen under the existing levy, and I'm very excited to see the next iteration of that. And just however you can thank everybody for all of their hard work, I would appreciate you doing that. Thank you.
I would also echo that. If you go back one slide, I would love to just shout out my West Hill neighborhood that is featured in here. You see West Hill Elementary School right there in the center. And so I've definitely seen the work being done throughout my community. And it's great how, we've worked together up here on prioritizing different parts of the city and make sure that the good changes are being spread out. And so I hope that many people in our community have a story of there used to be a shoulder there that is now a sidewalk, and to be able to feel safer getting around in Bothell. And so, 69% of the vote is a great margin. Really great to see that level of support from the community. And I, felt like I did my little part by writing the pro statement. I appreciate the help of staff in making sure that was, accurately reflecting what we're trying to do here. And so, thank you, and congratulations to Bothell for us being able to move forward with this work. Really grateful that we're not skipping a year of projects that we could be doing by doing this budget amendment today. And Councilmember Dodd is going to add one thing.
I just got to make this joke recently. So I grew up going to Frank Love, and I lived roughly at 4th Avenue West and 216th Street, which means I got to walk uphill both ways to school when I missed the bus. Accurately, not in the way my grandpa used to say it. And you can walk from where I grew up to the elementary school I went to, and that is pretty cool. So I'm done with the jokes now. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, go ahead, Miles. Thanks.
Thank you. So to carry out these projects and start delivering these projects, we have to pass an ordinance amending the budget because, as Aaron pointed out, the 2026 budget, which is part of the 25-26 biennium, did not include any of the new levy funds, which is going to be about $10 million in 2026. So we need to increase both the revenues in the street fund and a few other funds in the city, which we'll go through in a bit, as well as the expenditures. And we also have to update the authorized position listing to add 5 new FTEs to deliver these projects and start working and putting this new levy to work. Going over revenue increases, the rightmost column here is just the actual increase that this current ordinance is implementing or would implement. You see the $10 million in the street fund is the primary fund that these funds are going to be going into, and then there's a lot of transfers in and out of other funds. It's a little bit of a spaghetti mess. It's hard to follow, but the funds will go into the street fund and then go around the capital improvement fund, the arterial street fund, and the general fund to pay engineers and operations and projects. Looking at the expenditures now, the street fund has $6 million of expenditure increase to deliver projects, and a big chunk of that is being transferred into the capital improvement fund to work on the capital projects. There's also a large amount of that that's going to be there for operations, and there's a few other changes to the general fund and the arterial street fund. Most of those are just amending positions that existed, and the funding has now changed that the new levy has been passed, and we have to revisit those and make sure they're being funded by the right place. We will also be coming back to you in the 2027-2028 budget process with a much more comprehensive package. This is just looking at the first year of the levy, so stay tuned for more to come about that. And I'm also happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Okay, seeing none, I have one. Can you give some more insight to the community around the new FTEs and the scope of their work?
I think I can handle that one. So 2 of the proposed FTEs will staff our new multimodal and safety team on the operations side for streets. One of a third position is an engineering technician for transportation operations engineering. And then 2 proposed positions are senior capital engineers to implement the capital operating programs and projects.
That's exciting. And that your team's going to grow. It sounds like this is, you're getting the benefit of planners to then start like implementing some of what we've thrown at you. And we've asked for a lot. And so it makes sense to me that you're increasing your team to help, work out those schedules and implement the work. So thank you. I would accept a motion. Councilmember Curd.
I move to approve the ordinance amending the 2025-2026 budget.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Councilmember Curd and a second by Councilmember Dodd. Is there anyone who would like to discuss? All right, go ahead, City Clerk.
Please say yes or no. Councilmember Angulari.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Did I miss discussion?
It's fine. Please vote.
Okay, we're voting. Sorry about that.
I'll start over. Councilmember Angulari.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Aldrichs.
Yes.
Councilmember Curd.
Yes.
Councilmember Miles.
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd.
Yes.
Councilmember Alcabra.
Yes.
Passes 6-0.
Thank you. Okay, I am looking at the time, and it says it is 7:21. Council is going to adjourn to executive session pursuant to RCW 42.30.1101B to consider the selection of a site or the acquisition of real estate by lease or purchase when public knowledge regarding still on. Okay, no, I can hear. Okay. All right, do you need me to start over? All right, so purchase when public knowledge regarding such consideration would cause a likelihood of increased price expected to last 30 minutes with no action. So 30 minutes from now is 7:51. Council will adjourn from executive session.